So, my name is Fred Matzer. I was born in 1945 on the edge of war and peace. My father was the first real estate developer, a modest man who was very, very bright and courageous. So he bought land and started to build houses, later on shopping centers, offices, and developed whole quarters of villages or cities. Alas, he in the 60s developed first diabetes and later on Parkinson's disease. And it was about my 19th year of age that he asked me. He could hardly make himself clear because he lost how do you saliva and always had a handkerchief in front of his mouth to come into his company and be his successor, which was not the idea of me at the time. So, because of that difficult situation, I promised to join him and test it for a year. But when I came in, I could not go out anymore. He became worse and worse, and so slowly I became his successor. I was 23, I was a board member. At 26, I was chair of the board of a company, including subsidiaries of about 200 people. My dad died in 1977, and yeah, of course, we all children, we were left with three children. One brother of me, he committed suicide being 22 years old. Nobody knew why. And I had a chance to reflect on the future. I decided to stay for several years and then try to find a successor. Basically, in the early 80s, I really could step back and could take a less leading and more guiding role in the company. And it's then that I started to work for humanity. I made an appointment with the Secretary General of Red Cross, Red Crescent in Geneva, and I said, most of the time I'm here available as a volunteer. And he said, well, Fred, that's a great timing that you're coming because did you know that in this world, early 80s, 5 million children die related to the dehydration that goes with diarrhea? I had no idea. And he said, the good news is, in 90% of the cases, we can save their lives by a very simple intervention, oral rehydration salts, which is a combination of salt, sugar, and water, which you administer and give to the child, and the child will survive. So I said, give me a few days and I'll think about it. I came back and said, okay, I'm coming, I'll take this on. And so it was that in the in the autumn of 1983, I became the chair of this worldwide program. And yeah, it was quite successful. I left after 3 years and it was active in more than 20 countries. Now, more or less, it dissolved because it's part of the whole primary health care policy of all those organizations that work in very vulnerable areas. So it was a very interesting time. It was also a time that I needed to look more at myself. I thought, yes, I'm here to lead this program. My right hand was a doctor, an epidemiologist, Dr. Don Sutherland, and I had a little arrogance, like I thought, being the leader, I need to. When we spoke to the Minister of Health in Venezuela, and I took the lead. And then, in the presence of the minister, this Dr. Sutherland said, "No, no, you're not going to speak here. I am the expert. I will take the word." So that brought me to more self reflection. And I thought, yeah, I thought also, I am quite stressful. I am ambitious. And is that a good thing? And then I thought about the people that we wanted to serve. We went to Africa, vulnerable countries, vulnerable communities. And I thought, how can I help people when I first export my own stress into already vulnerable areas? So that brought me to the point that I needed to step back. And I found out that if I want to help, I first need to help myself. So I've been doing that for what I said 3 years, and I remained as a kind of advisor. But after having lived for 2 of those 3 years in Geneva, in Switzerland, I moved back with my family, wife, 3 daughters, to the Netherlands. And since then, I started to set up foundations, foundations that have as denominator, general denominator, to serve in the interest of all by using the credo to help and create harmony in people, in the environment, and as also in myself. And so it is when we look back that I have found 23 foundations that have worked in more than 50 countries all over the world. And yeah, I'm still active, attached to it, or but more at a distance than before. Is that enough for the first stage, or shall I continue? Or is
Yeah,
there a
it's
question coming up?
yeah, it's enough for the first question, first part, and second, mm, you mentioned before about love and fear, like
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was very important. There are two things that are very important, were very important happenings in the 80s. I listened to an audio tape of a man, Dr. Jerry Jim Tolsky, who later became a good friend. And that was a lecture on love. And his statement was the following: where there is love, there is no fear. Where there's fear, there is no love. Love is letting go of fear. And Damian, that became so important in my life. Many times a day, these lines go through my mind and heart. Another thing that happened where that was also in the mid 80s, that a friend of mine, an American, a Swiss friend, he said, you should meet this American therapist. He is a master in helping. And as I know that diabetes runs in your family, it might be interesting to see him. So I meet this guy in the apartment of my friend in Verbier, Switzerland. And he said, Yo, you first start to eat a lot of vegetables. So he gave me vegetables, brown rice, and he said, here I give you also a minusculous portion of nutmeg. And he said, this is an invention of Dr. Jonas Salk. Have you heard of Dr. Jonas Salk? He is the inventor of the polio vaccine. And this therapist claimed that he treated this Dr. Salk with this minusculous portion as well. So I took it, drinking a lot of water. You won't believe it or not, and I felt better and better. And at a certain moment, while I was completely at peace, and the music played in a room of Michael Jackson, "We Are the World." You know that song. I all of a sudden said, Sally has broken her collarbone on the slopes of the hill while skiing, and within 15 minutes she will be here. And so it was that within 15 minutes, Sally was there and said, and I knew also that she was asking for an ambulance, which was the case. So I became very interested in how can I be connected with information that is happening on another location which is out of the reach of my senses. So there started my quest to understand how accessing information works. And that is a field of interest that I have until today.
But what the love is for you? What's the meaning of love?
Love is a feeling, is a way of clarity of understanding that everything, being it from high density to the most subtle fields at the edges of our universe, always is in motion. And understanding for me means being conscious. So, how can I be aware or how can I be conscious? Uh, yeah, I mean, it is impossible to experience without consciousness. So that brought me to what is consciousness? And how does consciousness relate to matter, dense or subtle? And I came to understand that we never can prove the existence of matter when we are not conscious about it. Matter, by definition, has a location. We can describe it in qualitative and quantitative forms, but consciousness doesn't know space nor time. It's endless, it is timeless. So, how can we keep on having access to consciousness? And by experience, I found out that the highest levels of consciousness that I can experience go with a feeling of love. And I mean unconditional love. Being part of love. Love doesn't have a location, as said before, doesn't know
The,
time.
then how we can get there? How we can live with this consciousness and with this feeling of love? Because everybody talking about love, love. In Western society, we're almost crazy about love. Romantic love, 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 love and sex. But it's theory quite often. When you are talking with the people about real love in their life, quite often they talking about emptiness and they're talking about wishful thinking. I'd love to be in love. I'd love to follow in love, etc. And love very often have the connection with pain, not only with fear, but with pain. What do you think? What we can do to achieve this highest state of mind or feelings, which is
Well,
love?
by breathing slowly, you come in another state of being. If you and I would do that now, we can close our eyes and we can just listen to our breath. Listen to our heart. And I can feel a certain expansion now, which I associate with love. And the interesting thing of love is it doesn't know resistance. It's all encompassing. Resistance is equal to fear. When there's no fear, there's no resistance. No resistance, no fear. There's love. And we can experience love. And in physics, that's also the reality. We, in a world, the universe, as I mentioned before, is composed by matter, dense to subtle, always transforming and being accessible and observable by our mind. So it's interesting that God placed us in a paradox. So we have a body that's composed of matter, a world composed of matter, a universe composed of matter, cells that are matter and transform every second. And these are all the conditions, all part of resistance through which we can learn. We can learn lateral, one after the other lesson, but we also have the choice to learn transcendental. And a transcendental experience can be, in my own experience, only be experienced, yeah, through letting go and a slow brain rhythm.
But you want to say that we have all tools with us which we can use
Yeah.
to feel love and compassion and to be conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Then what do you think? Why we are not using these tools? Why we are decide to live in fear, not in live with love?
Because we see people doing it all around us. Even we import stress into our sleep. Because we are so conditioned, we are addicted to stress. And we create those, yeah, you have all kind of music. You have wonderful classical music, new age music that more or less go on a frequency of peace, but there's a lot of overload like and I'm not judging it. I mean, it's always nice to have a little boost, but of this stuff. But I prefer Bach or Mozart. So you decide what you eat, what you smell, what you take in by your ears, whatever.
Then
Some, but sometimes it's very difficult in urban areas to escape because it's bombarded with high frequency. You know, cities are expressions of mankind. So cities often are aborted from nature. So if we are always in a loop of being confronted with our own creation, which is taken away from nature, and not in the positions to nurture ourselves by nature, it's no wonder that our inner world is cluttered with culture and not nature, because we are so full of what mankind can do. But let's not forget, mankind is one of the billions of expressions of life. We think it's the only thing, but there are ants, there are trees, there are worms, there are whatevers, all kind of fishes, birds, and they exchange information as well. Look at starlings, how they inform one another to fly in the most beautiful formations. They don't use word, but they inform one another any second. And we have a more difficult way of communicating. We think it only goes through words, but it goes through many more channels. The A beautiful way of experiencing loving communication is choir singing or orchestras that play the most beautiful music, because when we set aside the ego a little bit, we can join and experience harmony in what we create.
If I understood properly, you say that one of the biggest problem which we have if you want to be in love with the world, not with another person, the first step it should be letting go the ego.
Yeah, that is always handy. Yeah,
Then what is the next step?
yeah. Go in the experience of less ego. You see a wider world. So free your mind from all kind of anticipating thoughts. Allow the experience. And a step sometimes is to go out of myself and be my own spectator. So I go and sit in the corner of the room right now and look at me having an interview with Damian. Hey, look at, interesting. You see,
It's
you
kind of
can,
the witness of your behave, or to be a witness of what's happening with you, just going outside of yourself and have the
it's
chance
not
to
a,
observe like helicopter view.
yeah, but it's not a weakness, it's an option. And it is indeed opening, cracking your own shell. So, and vulnerability is not a weakness, it is a quality,
Nice,
being vulnerable.
nice. Okay, and but you are in good situation. You were born in in the family with the money, and you have the choice to more or less the
Yeah,
choice to go to choose in which direction you are going. Even later on,
yeah,
but already you have the base from which you
yeah,
can
yeah,
start. But it's like it's privilege. It's not many
yeah.
people
You have
have the
very
option.
good point.
Yeah,
Very good point.
not a lot of people have this kind of chance. What do you
You're
think?
right.
How the people who didn't have the chance, they must get up in the morning, go in the middle of the crowded city, go to horrible work, do the things which they hate, and how they can find the mind, the peace of mind, the love, and the consciousness if they are attacked all the time with the music, with voices, they didn't saw the nature from years, etc., etc. What is your suggestion? What for them? What they can do? What we can do?
There's still those basic things. Watch your breathing, and whatever the environment is creating, still go and stay in your inner church. Everybody can do that. Circumstances can be more difficult. That is very true. But that is the only thing that I can advise. I've also been in stressful situations myself. And then you can be eaten away by your stress, which also happened. But you can also think, I need to be back in my own peace. Whatever the circumstances the outside world is doing.
Then always just come back to this to inside.
Yeah, inside.
Okay, you have a lot of experience with the financial world, with materialistic world, and with spiritual world. What do you think, from your point of view, in the best scenario, what we can achieve like a human race? How far we can go? Because now it's a change of paradigm, and we are in this VUCA time. Nothing is sure. Everything is happening. Everything is changing all the time. We couldn't have the things which we can trust. They will never change, because the science is changing, the medicine is changing, the politics is changing, economy is changing, psychology is changing, technology is changing, and we are not ready. Most of us, it's not ready to work with this VUCA time.
Mhm.
How we can do it again, and how what we can achieve.
Yeah, Damian, I am not a fortune teller. I can only do my best to serve the people around me, to learn from them, to love them. When I fear them, to look at my own fears with love. And the experience being is when I look with compassion and love to my fears, they melt. But I have to be willing to look fear in the eyes, because fear doesn't like eyes. Fear likes to be in the dark. That's the definition of it. So if we allow our inner light to shine, not so much can happen.
Yeah, it's this nice phrase. If you want to exchange the darkness into the light, for example, in the
Mm-hmm.
room, you just enough if you go to the dark room with the one torch
Yeah, yeah, that's a
and just
wonderful
small
analogy.
light,
Yeah,
it will
yeah,
change because
or
that, yeah, and
yeah, you cannot fire a dark. You cannot fire darkness.
yeah,
It's impossible.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
then uh, another question. Imagine that now we have the opportunity to create the company or the startup or the product who will solve most of the problems which we have now. For example, in your case, with fear and love. What do you think? What kind of the product it should be? What is the first, or maybe another things? What is the most important problem, in your opinion, the first problem which we should solve now to have more chance to survive like a human race in this new paradigm?
To go inside, to go inside, not outside, not to create something. Create peace in yourself and maintain peace, maintain love. That is the most important thing. And then trust. And what I often say, when you make choices, compare with care in order to share with care, and not compete. You can never be the best. Never. Who says that you or I am the best? I can
Oh,
never be better than you. I
sorry?
can feel my I can never be better than you. You can never be better than me. I can feel better than an hour ago or yesterday, but I cannot compare myself to you. You live in another body. You have a different experience. We come the closest perhaps when we sing together because we feel the same vibration. Hmm? Or smell the best soup that your grandma ever made together.
Yeah. Then, but still, I am looking for, because one of the things which we want to do, we want to, this is why we're asking the people. We want to find the people like you who are doing something, trying to make this world better place. And we are looking for advice from people like you, what we can do to change it. What is the first step which we should take? And what is the first problem apart of looking inside? Because it's, like you said, everybody is different. I mean, just it's easy and it's difficult. But what it should be the first things which we should solve now?
Yeah, one of the very first things that I've not yet mentioned is to forgive yourself and forgive other people. Because, the the things that we have not forgiven, it's like carrying a heavy rucksack. And when we can empty that, we can walk lighter.
Okay, then first step, according to you, it's forgive yourself and forgive the
Yeah,
world.
yeah,
Second,
and
find the tools which help me individually to look inside and find this
yeah,
peace of mind. When it's a peace,
right,
the love appear.
right. And that goes with slower breathing and bringing down your brain rhythm. And with an an encephalogram, you can test that too. That you can follow that, but feedback. But You need to have that around, but it is scientific.
Okay, then, and last question. You are kind of the impact investor. In which direction you think we should look? In which subject, apart of love and fear and going inside? What is another things which we can do in the world to help them? Like advisor to the another impact investors who want to do something, but they don't know to help the water in Africa, or maybe feeding the peoples, or maybe to sending the guns to Ukraine, or create a company where we treat people, etc., etc.
Well, the first of all is what kind of return do you want from money? Do you want to have a financial return, the highest financial return, or do you want to create change in such a way that your investments help to less burden the planet and nature? And if you stress the last one, to go for processes that are greener, then often, by the way, it also means that you have a higher financial return. But if that is not the aim, you help and create a greener world. And with that, we goes also that when we invest, we also look at human circumstances of the way people work, that the workers' rights are acknowledged, that people have a safe and not polluted environment in which they live, in which the workers have a say, etc. That is more important than create financial return. Because don't forget, if we have a higher financial return, we have more stuff, we have more money, and we have to do it again. And if it keeps on polluting, what are you doing? You can have a lot of money and the world is in fire. What is it? What are we doing? And anyway, money is an illusion, because if you and all the people go today to the banks and we claim our money back, 1 or 2% is available. The rest is just air, is not there. So
Then
it's an illusion.
the money are illusion.
The money is
Reality,
the illusion.
yeah, and reality, it's love.
Is love, right? Love is an experience. You know
What do
the
you,
experience, Damian.
yeah,
You know the experience of love. I can
yeah,
see
of
it in
course,
your eyes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I am in love with full word, and it's easy for
There
me.
you go. There you go.
Yeah. Okay, then uh, uh, the last words, the last sentence, if you can just leave us the end of this interview with the things which you want to stay in our minds.
Love yourself. Love your neighbor. When you talk with somebody, ask yourself, do you do that to bridge understanding, or do you want to attack? Do never try to convince anybody. And the whole world wants to convince other people. But to be convinced by another is not a pleasant experience, as everybody knows. So concentrate on clear information sharing so that the other one has the chance and choice to be convinced. Because if you feel that you're convinced, you carry that as your truth, and then you can speak from conviction.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.